All right, we'll get started. Good afternoon, financial professionals. Happy Wednesday and welcome to the BREW, E4's program that seeks to expand your knowledge and expertise while building relationships every week. I'm your host, John Florence, part of the E4 group, standing in for Abby Fletcher, who is enjoying some well-deserved time off this week. So we're going to begin by celebrating a few of the special days as we usually do. Today is Canadian Beer Day. So make sure that you pop into your local watering hole and ask them for a bottle of Molson, perhaps, or Labatt, or maybe a Fin du Monde or a Maudit, two of Canada's premier best French-style brews. Today is also Mad Hatter Day. It's a character popularized by Lewis Carroll's 1865 novel Alice in Wonderland. And you may be familiar with the expression mad as a hatter. In the 19th century, hat makers regularly used mercurous nitrate, a toxic chemical that with prolonged exposure caused mercury poisoning, resulting in symptoms such as tremors, twitching, and excitability. Today, this kind of poisoning is called Mad Hatter's disease. So happy Mad Hatter's Day. And lastly, today is Random Acts of Poetry Day. To that end, I've written a little poem that I would like to share with you. Our clients often tell us these are uncertain times. Is there anything you can sell us to ease our troubled minds? Why, yes, I do, I tell them, a policy whose value climbs. But I cannot find another word that with insurance rhymes. So go forth and spread some good poetry among your friends and loved ones. After that bit of nonsense, let's jump right into our main event. Today, our speaker is Doug Twiddy, and Doug is a life and annuity case designer on the E4 Insurances team, and is also one of the most recent and welcome additions to our group. Doug has a wealth of experience and a very keen analytical mind, and he's also available for you to consult with on any of your life and annuity cases. Today, Doug is going to share some of the ideas that he has about taking potential uses of accumulated cash value and looking at those in the context of permanent life insurance policies. But before I hand over the mic, I do want to remind you that we welcome your comments and your questions on the BREW, but we ask that you please enter them in the chat box on your screen, and we'll address them after Doug's presentation. Be sure to stay on the call as well for the weekly drawing, where we select an audience member to receive a small token of our appreciation for your being here today. So without further ado, Doug, the floor is yours. Welcome to the BREW, and I'll turn off my mic.
Thank you, John. Welcome, everybody. Going to jump right in this because this is typically a pretty long presentation, so I'm going to go through it fast to try to keep everybody in their 15 minutes with respect to time. So I'm not going to hit point 3 because we're not going to have enough time to get into long-term care, but I want to run through the idea of life insurance, cash value, and how it can work with a retirement plan. Typical client, obviously life insurance need has to exist. We don't sell this for its sole purpose of cash value in most cases. If they already need life insurance and they're spending the money for the death benefit, the fact that they now have this vehicle that they have the ability to overfund and create a cash value surplus inside, that's where this really comes into play. Typically ages 25 to 55, simply because under 25, they probably don't have the money for it. Over 55, generally they won't have enough years to fill this type of plan unless they have quite a bit of money. And they like the idea of a Roth IRA. I simply mean they like the idea of tax-free income, except this, as you know, does not have the restrictions placed on it from the IRS the way that some of those retirement plans do. They have a concern about the strength of the retirement plan, future tax rates, market volatility. And again, we're not going to cover long-term care here. So for this particular presentation, let's just assume we're looking at a guy that's 40 years old, pretty decent health, doesn't live in a state like New York, has some life insurance, would like a little more. I just simply mean we're going to buy a small life policy that we can easily overfund. He wants to make sure that he doesn't, let me back up one. Wants to make sure he doesn't outlive his money, and he's planning for retirement from ages 65 to 90 with the equivalency of about $35,000 of today's money. And he lets us know that his goal is $1 million for retirement. So most people spend their entire life worrying about getting to retirement, and then they get there and they don't know what to really do. And I think most of you have probably seen this generic sequence of return set up, basically saying sequence A, we're looking at a return from the S&P. Sequence B, all I did was flip the numbers. And in sequence C, we're looking at the average. Doesn't matter which way you do it, we end up with the same total at the end. The issue is nobody puts $200,000 into an account and lets it sit there for 25 years without putting more money in or taking some money out. So let's look at the same idea, since we're on the way to retirement, of adding $200 per month in contributions. You can see sequence A, remember the guy's goal was $1 million. After 11 years, he had already hit it, right? That's perfect. He probably thinks he's going to retire super rich, can retire early, except when he hit 65, he didn't even have the $1 million left anymore, right? Sequence B, he does hit his $1 million. And since sequence C is the average of all of those, we're somewhere in the middle, right? So what I want to look at is falling short on the retirement plan. We were looking at the $1 million goal. We're looking at sequence B, right? And then the falling short is going to be our sequence A. So since we can't predict the down years in the market right before retiring, if we already have a life insurance policy, then we already have a plan to protect this potential negative hit right before our retirement. I mean, can you imagine having 150% of your retirement goal at 62 and 3 years later, you don't even have what your goal was? All right. So in sequence B, if you're looking at year one and we have $1 million sitting in the account, right? Our goal was $35,000, inflated for 25 years at 3% means we want to take home $73,000. If we're looking at today's taxes, we're increasing them accordingly. We're taking sunset into account. We're looking at an effective tax rate then at about 11.79%. And then let's hypothetically assume we retired in 1955 and we're looking at the S&P returns. You can see that he would have taken $83,000 out to get the 73, had a pretty good return, ended up with more money, and the sequence goes on. I'm not going to run through it, but in this particular scenario that we could not predict, right, he had enough money to make it to retirement. But what if we did not hit that, right? We're falling short on a plan. If he would have ended up with sequence A and had $852,000, he would have run out of money in year 21, not even had quite enough money. However, if he had a life insurance policy, this particular run I ran as I think it was a Builder Plus IUL North American, do an increasing death benefit, of course, so that the cash value builds into the death benefit. So if he dies early, he didn't waste all that money throwing it into it, right? The death benefit is increasing with the cash value. And this one would have cost him $220 a month, payable to 65, because we want to eliminate the bills when you retire. And he would have paid a total of $66,000 of premium. And over that last 4.5 years, it would have paid him $616,000 of tax-free distributions. Of course, it's not guaranteed, but it's life insurance again, right? We're not selling this for that purpose. You're selling it because it needs life insurance. But since he now owns this vehicle, let's take advantage of it. All right. So for $66,000, he could have gotten a $616,000 tax-free return. Second one, dialing in your tax bracket. All right. I'm going to flow through this fairly quickly. I love this. I could spend a lot of time on this. All right. This shows the green line is the lowest tax rate throughout basically history. The yellow is the highest tax rate. Neither one of those mean a whole lot because the dollars change throughout time. At the bottom, you'll see where I've listed those dollar values in inflated values, so it kind of makes sense. But the blue line is the $100,000 equivalency. That's the one that you're basically going to look at. And you can see, I haven't updated this in a couple of years, but you can see that tax rates recently went down, right? Tax rates haven't been this low since, 1940, all right? And our national debt, the red line, is skyrocketing. See, the problem is when we had World War I, when we had the Great Depression, when we had World War II, we did things like increase taxes, eliminate or lower the personal exemption, right? We took certain measures to help offset the cost of this. In 2001, when we entered our 20-year war on terror, we didn't do any of that. All right, so our national debt is going crazy. This doesn't take into account all the money we've spent with COVID. So I leave the end open because I love to have clients finish it off. Do you really think that tax bracket is going to stay exactly where it's at? And if so, can we get national debt under control? If you're fine drawing that red line straight up and drawing your tax line straight over, that's fine. You make your call. We'll run with it. But if you're buying life insurance, we have a plan in place that could potentially help you if taxes change. So Tom planning to retire in 25 years, wanting the inflated value of 35,000 is 73 grand, right? We're planning on current federal tax layouts, sunset included. So when he goes to retire in 25 years, with inflation, the standard deduction should be about $14,000, right? And the tax brackets, as you can see, are 10 and 15 and 25, because that's what they're going to move back to if there's no change. And he's going to pay about $10,000. So he needs to pull $83,000 out of his account in order to walk away with 73. But what if taxes change, right? Let's look at a couple of very real possibilities, easy ones. Let's assume that they eliminate the standard deduction. Right now, he has to take $21,000 out at the 25% tax bracket, meaning he's going to pay almost $15,000 in taxes. He's going to pull almost $88,000 out of his account compared to his plan of 83. Not a huge difference, but if you're pulling an extra, $4,000, $5,000 a year out, that does change things. So that's an additional $4,600 a year he wasn't planning for. But with life insurance, you can dial that tax bracket in. You can decide that you want to only take $17,763 out at the 25% level and instead pull $3,500 a year out of your life insurance plan. What if tax rates double? That seems like it might be kind of crazy, but remember the highest tax bracket was 94% at one point. Throw in the extra 6% for state taxes and you literally brought no money home after back then was $200,000. So this isn't totally unreasonable. I don't know how somebody's going to get voted into office if this is their plan, but if they do, you can see that he's going to have to pull $102,000 out now to take $73,000 home. That's almost $20,000 more than he was planning every year, right? With life insurance. Instead, he can pull $12,000 out instead of 22, right? That's $10,000 savings there. And instead pull $9,700 out of his life policy. And just to take it one step further, what if both happen? Standard deduction's gone, tax rates double. Now he's taking almost $120,000 out. Again, compared to his plan of $83,000, that's $33,000 a year that he wasn't planning for. That will ruin your retirement plan. Again, we can dial in that tax bracket. No one's going to get this specific, but you can say that maybe you want to hit the 10 and 12% bracket now, but you don't want to jump into the 20s. That's pretty reasonable. All right. You can plan for that. This is my favorite one, right? Maximizing retirement by minimizing losses. I know a lot of people pull money out of the market. They secure their funds when they go into retirement. But let's just assume that you don't, right? We're making some unrealistic assumptions. We're going to leave our money 100% in the market. I can't account for RMDs realistically here, but timing is everything and we can't predict the future, right? You could have retired in 1937, had a terrible first year. That would have really hurt, minus 34% on your account. 1949, not too bad. 1982 would have been a great time to retire. I mean, that's almost 10 solid years of growth. And 2000, that's pretty bad in the beginning. And then again, really bad at the end. So without life insurance, Tom is forced to continue taking funds out of his retirement plan, and he's locking those losses in every single year. But with life insurance, he can move over to his life policy when necessary and not sell into that loss. He doesn't have to take a hit from the market and continue to pull money out. Here's what I mean. All right. We're looking at a retirement of 1973 now, not 1955. That's the only difference. So 1973 was not as good of a year to retire, not as good of a time to retire. And you can see he had the $1 million and he ran out of money in year 12. However, if you look at year one, after he pulled money out, he lost money. There was a negative in the market. Instead of continuing to pull money out of his retirement plan, what if he left it alone for 1 year and he pulled $75,000 out of his life policy? All right. I realize we're not accounting for RMDs, but right now he's not taking RMDs. He's 65. All right. So we went from withdrawing money that 1 year and we added 2 years of distributions now to his retirement plan. He got 2 extra years of income by eliminating 1 year. Let's do it again though. You can see in year 2, he took another hit. So if in year 3, we leave that $88,000 alone, we go to a life policy, we go from 12 years of money to 14 years, all the way to 19 years. It continues going. Look at year 5, he gets another negative. So if the following year, we leave the account alone again, we hit the life policy, now he's basically made it his 25 years. All right. Just from 3 years of distribution, we went from 12 years of income to basically 25 years of income by leaving that account alone for 3 years, by having a little bit of money on a life insurance policy to allow for that recovery. All right. But let's keep going. Year 9, you see the negative, right? Negative 488. Now, all of a sudden, because of 4 years of life insurance withdrawals, we went from 12 years only. And then I hate to say it, he's a door greeter at Walmart, whatever it is, right? He's struggling to pay his bills. So now he made it his 25 years and he has more money in his account than he even started with that retirement. That's incredible. But you see another negative at 18, right? So let's do it again. Now, all of a sudden, he has $1.8 million set in his account after 25 years. So by having life insurance and turning off those distributions for those 5 years, he was able to increase his retirement portfolio by $4 million because he got an additional 13 years of distributions. He had $1.8 million still left in his life policy, and that's not taking into account how much money he has still sitting in his life policy or the death benefit. So life insurance increased his account by the $4 million. It went from $979,000 of distributions to $4.9 million of value. And just for a little graph, because everybody loves to see it, the orange is his account running out of money without, and the green, it looks super unrealistic, but you just saw the numbers. You can see that it works, right? By having the cash value of a life policy, you have many, many different ways to help secure and protect the accounts that you guys are spending decades helping your clients put together. That's my presentation without getting into long-term care. Obviously, the long-term care portion, right, is you could throw the long-term care rider on there for minimal cost, and the entire death benefit is available if they need it for long-term care needs. Of course, per carrier, per state, per availability, you know the difference there. Any questions?
That's a really great share, Doug. Thank you very much for that information. And I can see just really tremendous impact that the use of these types of policies can bring to people who are looking for tax-free income in the way that you described with those clients. As a reminder, if you have any questions from Doug's presentation, please enter them into the chat box and we can address them, or any comments as well. We'll give just a second for people to reply to that.
Well, I know I went through it pretty quick, so if anybody has other questions, feel free to reach out. I mean, it's cash value of a life policy. You guys all deal with it. But if you want to talk more about any of these specific pieces, please feel free to reach out to me whenever you want.
Very good. Well, seeing no further questions, we're going to move on to the drawing. So, Doug, I'm going to ask you to pick a number, please, out of the hat between 1 and 15.
Let's go with 7.
And the number 7 is, and it looks like we've got Russell St. John as the winner. So congratulations, Russell, for that, and be on the lookout for a small token of our appreciation coming to your inbox soon. Please join us next week on The Brew, where we will welcome John Rafferty. John has spent much of his 30-year career in insurance and investments, building annuity marketing departments at companies like Mass Mutual, AIG, American General, and Symetra. He's currently operating an annuity sales and marketing consultancy called RaffertyAnnuityFraming.com. John's going to present a couple of brief ideas to help identify retirement clients whose portfolios might be at risk because of today's challenging market environments. Join us for his insights on using fixed and indexed annuities as a potential solution for these concerns. Finally, I would also like to remind you that all of our brewcasts are recorded and available for you to watch at your convenience 24/7 on our YouTube channel. To get to that, simply Google YouTube and E4 Insurance, The Brew, and you'll be taken right to that channel and you can watch to your heart's content. We've got hours and hours of great programming available for you to review. Without anything else at the moment, we want to thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you next week on The Brew. Thanks for coming.